Welcome to Viking Spotlight. This is a podcast about people, events, and projects in the North Canton City School District. I'm your host, Jeff Wendorf. January is School Board Appreciation Month, where we honor the community volunteers who serve on their local boards of education. In 2022, School Board Recognition theme is Rising Above, which is very appropriate now as school board members face the tough challenges of educating students during the pandemic. Today, we welcome the President of the Board of Education of North Canton City Schools, Mrs. Andrea Ziarko. Welcome.
Thank you.
A 1994 graduate of Hoover High School, Mrs. Ziarko obtained her bachelor's degree in accounting from Indiana University and her Juris Doctorate from Ohio State University Morowitz College of Law in 2001. She's a partner at the Baker, Dublicar, Beck, Wiley, and Matthews Law Firm in North Canton. She's also a member of the Stark County Bar Association and the Community Involvement Committee. In addition, she's a member of the North Canton Charter Review Commission and the Board of Trustees for the North Canton YMCA. She's also a sustaining member of the Junior League of Stark County, and she previously served on the North Canton Public Library Board of Trustees. She's now in her second term as a board member with the North Canton City Schools, and I believe tomorrow night,
yes.
Second round possibly as board president. We appreciate your work on that. Her husband have 3 kids in the district, and we're glad you're with us today, and just wanted to talk to you a little bit about being a school board member, and welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Well, what does a school board member do?
Well, a school board or school board member?
Both. Let's do both.
Quite different.
A and B, right?
Right. All right. For the school board, it really serves many roles, but it really is actually very limited in nature. School board members are elected officials and basically entrusted with governing a community's public schools. The primary role of a school board is to ensure that the school district is representative to the values of the community, the beliefs and the priorities. And the board members, while they basically are to make important decisions, and of course, as you know, the one of the biggest ones being to hire a superintendent and a treasurer. And then, of course, we set policy. Plan student services, both long-range planning and short-range goals. We adopt curriculum. The board establishes the budget. It's also a very important role, both as the board in general and the specific members, to engage the community and engage the parents in the education of the students and their children.
Sure.
It's important to be a good fiscal steward of the district's money, in the community, community relations, that type of thing. And then, of course, most importantly, the board is to act, as always, in the best interest of the students in the district, within the scope of their legal authority.
Great. That sounds like a lot. It is. And in North Canton, we have approximately 4,300 students enrolled, and we have about 15 square miles that we cover, city of North Canton, and then some parts of other townships in our area, about 600 employees. And as a school board, as you act as a board, that board, as you said, authorizes and looks at policy on how the district operates, some of our major goals, and kind of sets direction for the district and a little bit of how we'll get there in the policy. A lot of policies are legal in nature, requirements from the Ohio legislature and the state and so on, and also the governed by, of course, state laws and so on, and then we comply with those and also set some local policy too. And so the board has some committees a little bit, and I think each of you, there's 5 board members in North Canton. So you serve on, I believe, finance and facilities, and I also help organize another one, the policy committee, so they review policy updates, and we subscribe to a service that helps us stay legal with ever-changing legal pieces in Columbus. They tell us that we need to edit and so on. Any other any other committees that you serve on?
I also serve on the athletic committee.
Yeah. Good, great. We talked a little bit about the general makeup of the board and what those things are. What about an individual board member? Let me ask you. That wasn't a very good question, was it?
That's okay.
Let me ask another one. So, made up of 5 board members, and your power and your support and your strength comes from in a vote in one.
Sure.
And so, with any governing board, things either pass or are not supported by votes, and those are recommended either by the superintendent or the treasurer.
Right.
And
well, right. I think what you're saying basically is that each board member has to have the decision-making ability and their own. They bring to the table their own experiences and their own thought process, and but the decisions are only made by the board as a whole at an open meeting. But of course, it's certainly very important for each individual board member to understand, all of the issues that are being presented, and to make recommendations and pass those based on all the information that
you have
that the administrators will bring. Yes,
and there's a communication between constituents or parents and other non-parents who live in the community, the constituents. On a variety of things, and lots of things in recent years. A lot of times it's surrounding money and levies and bond issues and those kind of things. Sometimes it's around some policy and governance, like COVID things.
That's one,
been a popular one lately.
Right.
And other things. Can you talk a little bit about how you collaborate or listen to the community?
Oh, well, sure. Quite honestly, just being a member of the community, is a lot of collaboration in and of itself. I'm involved in quite a bit outside of school. I work in North Canton. I work in the community. I have 3 children in the district, so I talk to the children, their teachers, their friends, their friends' parents, and I hear everything, just about. I do try to, I see things and hear things on social media, of course, but you know how that goes. We try to go to the source of things. So it's a community, and I think that's one of the one of the reasons I ran for school board, one of the reasons I'm on it, and one of the most important things that I think that people need to look in their elected officials like that is to see whether people are really tuned into their community and who they talk to,
yes.
and whether they listen or not.
Awesome, thanks. How can parents get involved, or how can parents help make the district better? Any district, not just ours.
Right. Just like what you said, stay involved. Talk to their children, their students, understand what they're doing in classes. Support. And I think one of the main things that we have here in North Canton that helps elevate us is that we have parents who support the teachers and respect them and respect the decisions of both the teachers and the administrators. And I think that that's very important in any district. But again, like you said, stay involved. That's really what elevates the district.
Right, and communication. As a superintendent, had a phone call the other day. Somebody was upset about something that happened in the classroom, and my first question was, have you talked to the teacher, or have you talked to the principal? And typically that's not the case, but that's where our problems are resolved,
right.
and taken care of. Face-to-face communication. Text and email is not near as good as face-to-face. And
no, and neither better, are listening to rumors or
social media.
Social media, no. I'll pick up the phone. Right. Yes, talk to somebody.
We have great relationships with our parents and our kids, and it's really a fantastic place for kids and for staff. And I mentioned having nearly just a little bit over 600 staff members, and 300 are certified staff, teachers, and so on. What's the relationship between the board and teaching staff and support staff?
Well, like I said, the the only two really direct reports to the board are the superintendent and the treasurer. The board is, of course, involved because we approve or not approve, but the hiring recommendations. But as far as the interviewing process and hiring and going through all that, that's done at the principal levels and
Sure.
the different levels there. But the communication typically goes through the principals and through the superintendent, as you
Sure.
yourself know very well, or different administrators that might be involved, the coaches, different administrators.
Right.
But so we don't necessarily have a lot of direct contact, but there is a lot of communication because you need to stay involved. You need to understand what's happening at each of the schools. So while any official communication really does take place at the open meetings and through the channels that I've mentioned, the lines are always open.
Right. Yep. Good. Thanks. You mentioned the superintendent and the treasurer are direct reports to the board, and that's accurate and so on. And so those are two big hires for the board. And then everything else kind of funnels through them to the board and vice versa. Talk about I guess that structure would be in the public sector, be like a CEO and a CFO with the board of directors.
Sure.
And pretty much exactly the same and lines up that way. Lots of policies and so on, as you mentioned. But what, how can, I guess it's directive, and you make those changes, and the treasurer and the superintendent are directly responsible for getting the district to where the board wants us to go. And that's the ultimate piece there of serving as CEO or superintendent. So in looking at the direction of the district and so on, what's your concern as a board president or as a board member? What's your current hot topics? What are some things that you want to make sure you see happen with North Canton City Schools?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a big hot topic person. I would say that my concern, my chief concern with the district has been and probably always will be to maintain the excellence in the education that we serve. And, while, of course, in my tenure as president, we've had to deal with a lot of different issues. And, you mentioned COVID, and the safety of our schools, which, of course, is primary to the education simply because you can't learn in an environment where you're not safe. And, that's just always been the top priority. I went to North Canton City Schools. My children go here. And I think that to maintain the excellence in order to produce productive individuals and good citizens, that is and always will be my chief concern for the district.
Great, good. That it makes the most sense, right?
Right.
I mean, we want to be safe and we want to get great results and efficient, and of course, excellence is the key piece,
Right.
and in doing that efficiently and safe. The one of the other, we mentioned safety. We mentioned some other things. We've got a couple other projects, COVID, of course, and some things in COVID times have been very interesting. And it's a very polarizing piece, especially in the policy, because sometimes we don't get super clear guidance from the state or health departments or whatever. And in general speaking, there's a variety on the continuum of beliefs and so on how we should run policy and so on. And I know the board went through this fall some considerations of policy making and so on. And I know that's tough on a board we want to make everybody happy. And
right. That would be
that's
nice.
difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the board has wrestled with lots of different things over the years. And COVID was one, but also in the last 2 years or so, asking for money for operating levy and making a decision on whether or not we're going to build buildings. And I mean, the board made a $50 million decision to say, hey, yeah, we're going to build two elementary schools. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Well, as a board member, I feel like our job here, at least in North Canton, is pretty easy. And there are always opposition views, but we make our decisions based on the community as a whole, quite honestly. It was driven by staff members and community members for the new buildings. And I think that's very important because those are the people that it affects.
Sure.
And when the community wants it, and my job isn't to go in there and say, well, I don't think we should spend, that kind of money. We need to stay in our old buildings. We need to make them work. That's not my job. My job is to represent what the community as a whole wants. And that's the same mentality that we take through everything, which, when COVID comes along and we need to make decisions, the majority of people in the community, they are involved and they care very deeply for their children, just as everybody else does. And they want to make those decisions for their children. And so my job is to not tell them they can't do that. My job is to represent them in the school, and we do the best that we can here in the district. And
sure. Try to
every day.
Get everybody as best we can to the end goal, which is excellence in education and doing so efficiently. And we've been able to do that financially, and took care of some things we had asked previously. Gosh, I don't even know how many years ago now it was. We asked about a building and a operating levy at the same time, and our community said no, and we got that message and loud and clear, and a little different mechanism for funding that as well. But came back and did what they asked, did some research and asked about solidifying our financial picture and our checkbook, if you will, and then to talk about buildings. And so that approach has gone well for the board, and we're just about waiting on bids currently. And in a few weeks, we'll have bids in for those two buildings and see those happen within the next 18 months or so, get into those and then take the next step. But so anything else you want to answer about being a board member, or has being a board member changed your views on anything in education?
Yes and no. I would say that, I've always known that education is important. And as a parent, when I had children, that's when I really realized that the significance that it really does have, and how attending school in a good school district can really affect your life as a whole. And then so as a board member, I've sort of brought that with me. And, I understand that parents, their biggest gift, is what they're sharing that with us, in with the school every day. And so I view the school district, and even more so, I think, since I've been on the board, really as an ally of the parent, and a entity to help the parent educate the student and to give them a well-rounded education, and as I said before, just to prepare them to go out into the world. And I'm very happy to be on the board and happy to be serving in this capacity.
We appreciate you serving, that's for sure. And the things that make our board unique is they're representative. I think there's two board members that are current parents. Two of them have graduates just a few years ago, nobody in the school right now, and both business people in the community. And one retired educator and actually a retired superintendent, but kind of represents the senior community. And so we have a fantastic board and a great mix and a great representation of our community in general. So one of the things that I often think about is what does a board need, and how do they how does a superintendent prepare, and how does a superintendent get a board what they need? That's not really a question, but I often think about it. But as a board member, when you talk about legislator and the things that change in Columbus that affect us, is there any opportunities that you think, as an attorney, to form a relationship with our legislators and to try to influence? I know we belong to the Ohio School Boards Association as a district, and they kind of represent all districts in Ohio with some legislative pieces. But is there anything going on, or you think at the state level that needs our attention locally?
Well, no, like you said, I think, just keeping your finger on the button, just staying in tune to what's going on, and being a part of the OSBA and organizations like that are really the best way. Knowing who your local representative is, always. Things change so slowly, and right, you know that as well as anybody else. But yeah. I mean, I think we do a good job here in North Canton of maintaining and following,
keeping in touch
what we need to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if I think I'm hearing a few things for parents, especially and community members, is to keep in touch, pay attention, have some conversation, not only with school people, school board members, administration and teachers, but also with local leaders and even some leaders in Columbus to try to understand where things are going. And if you ever have any questions, please reach out to the district to ask those, and we can point you in the right direction so you can form your own opinion on things. Anything else you'd like to share as a board member?
No, I think you got it all here. So
great.
Yes,
Well, we appreciate it. We know as a mom and a family that is a North Canton family and a bunch of Vikings, not only as graduates but with young ones coming up here, get to sign a diploma before too long. That's exciting.
This year, actually.
Yes.
Crazy.
Want to thank you for joining us, and School Board Appreciation Month is January, but we certainly appreciate you all year. I know you guys don't make much money at all. It's almost laughable what you make. And for being serving on the board, taking those phone calls and emails on nights and weekends, not only doing your job, but a second job as well. But we appreciate our board and thank them for their leadership and helping us stay excellent in academics and athletics and the arts. Well, thank you very much, Andrea, and we appreciate it. I believe we have a next segment coming up here. Just for a quick notice, for Mr. Varn's going to step in a few minutes, talk about an upcoming concert, and we appreciate it, and thank you to the Board of Education.
Thank you.
Now we want to welcome Mr. Ron Varn to our podcast today to talk about upcoming concerts that you might want to attend. On January 26th at 7 p.m., Hoover Symphonic and concert bands will be performing. And again, on January 27th at 7 p.m., the Hoover Jazz Band will perform. Both concerts will be held in Hoover Hall of Performing Arts and are open to the public. Thanks for joining us today, Mr. Varn.
Certainly is my pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you. There's nothing like a great night of instrumental music. And could you tell us a little bit about the first performance on the 26th then and what we can expect to hear?
Sure. Well, that first performance on January the 26th will feature both the symphonic band and the concert band. In addition to these groups, the Loeb Brass Ensemble and the Flute Choir, as well as the Clarinet Choir, will also be performing. You'll hear a wide variety of music from the classics. One of the pieces we're going to do is called Of Sailors and Whales. It's by a great composer, Francis Macbeth. We're also going to play a John Philip Sousa march called Saber and Spur. So I think there's going to be something at this concert for everyone.
That's awesome. And I don't think folks understand what goes into preparation for these kind of things. Can you tell us about what to expect? And you did that a little bit, but what about the preparation for this? When did you start preparing?
Well, it's been a while that we've started doing this. November the 5th was our last day of marching band, and we put our marching shoes away right after that, and we came right around the following Monday, November the 8th, and we started preparing for this concert itself. It's clearly a labor of love for all of us as we do this, and we certainly enjoy performing for a large audience, so if you're able to come on out to one or both, feel free.
Great. And then on the 27th is a jazz band, which that concert will also draw a lot of people. Could you share some information about the jazz concert on the 27th of January?
Sure. The jazz concert is a little, what we like to call it laid back, a little bit more laid back. And on that night, we're going to have two of the high school jazz bands. We have Hoover Jazz 1 and Hoover Jazz 2. We also have our middle school jazz band will play at the very beginning a couple selections. You'll also hear our trumpet ensemble. The brass choir also is going to play. And once again, it's probably going to be a really exciting concert. I think you'll enjoy the different styles. And just for everybody's benefit, I think we should know that jazz doesn't just mean like swing music that you may have seen in the movie. Oh, I don't know, Pearl Harbor, you've seen some swing music in there. Well, we have lots of different styles that are encompassing in the jazz idiom. And like swing, there's blues, there's rock, reggae, Latin, and even funk. And you're going to hear almost all of those different styles when you come to our jazz band concert on the 27th. So please feel free to join us. It's free. It's a nice way to spend your evening.
Free entertainment, and especially from the kids at Hoover High School. Approximately how many kids are in the instrumental music programs?
Well, as far as all the way down to the middle school or down into the fifth grades, we have about 500 students all the way down. In the high school, just the high school, there's 170. And that doesn't include the orchestra, which would take us up into the 200 range. So there's a good number of students.
That's a great way to be able to shine and to show their skills and celebrate that. So once again, and we appreciate your time today, Mr. Varn, to celebrate these, get these on the schedule, and wish you all the best in those two concerts. Once again, the Hoover Symphonic and Concert Bands will perform on Wednesday, January 26th at 7 p.m. And the very next night on Thursday, January 27th at 7 p.m., the Hoover Jazz Band will perform. Both concerts are held in Hoover Hall at Hoover High School and are open to the public and are free.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us today, Mr. Varn, and wish you all the best in those concerts and to our students.
Thank you again for having us.
Thanks for joining us, and we hope you listen to next week's podcast as we talk to Athletic Director Tom Oakes for a sports update. If you have any questions or comments that you wish to share with us, don't forget you can email us at vikingspotlight@northcantonschools.org. That's vikingspotlight@northcantonschools.org. Thank you very much. Signing off for another podcast, and go Vikings.